When Maryland's legislature passed the Clean Energy Jobs Act in 2019, it set ambitious goals for shifting the state toward a clean energy future. These targets, 50% renewable energy by 2030, 14.5% of all energy from solar sources, and 1,200 megawatts of offshore wind, recognize the need for prompt action to combat climate change and the tremendous economic opportunity that comes with such a transition. But achieving these goals will require reform outside our state as well. The country needs an expanded, modernized electric grid to accommodate and deliver clean energy to customers, especially as these resources become cheaper and the demand for them increases. Maryland's grid is just one part of a complex regional system known as PJM, and the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC, establishes the processes that PJM uses to plan and to develop new transmission. But FERC has not updated the requirements governing transition since 2011, a time when renewables were just starting to penetrate the grid. So I applaud FERC for its long overdue consideration of changes to regional transmission planning. And as planning and development of the new grid get underway, it's crucial that FERC and regional transmission organizations respect and take into account state policies, especially states' clean energy goals. There are numerous problems with the existing processes. The lack of a forward-looking, holistic approach has led to an inefficient, piecemeal expansion of the transmission grid, making delivery of energy far more expensive to customers than it needs to be. And this approach has created a logjam for connecting solar and wind resources, which in many cases are now the cheapest sources of new capacity. These backlogs have slowed the development of many viable clean energy projects and defeated others while failing to advance state clean energy policies. The broader regional approach that FERC is weighing can advance state clean energy policies in other ways, by promoting the longer distance transmission that will be needed to efficiently meet state goals. Solar and wind resources are geographically dependent and may not be able to serve demand centers without investments in regional transmission. Better regional planning will enable states to access resources beyond their borders in order to meet these clean energy goals. And ensuring direct state involvement in the transmission process will also be essential. Transmission is inherently local, and regional planners should engage with states early in the process to understand what is and what is not feasible under state siting statutes. Past regional transmission planning has failed to do so. For example, in Maryland, a lack of early engagement with state authorities on how to allocate costs for a transmission project connecting electricity from 2 New Jersey nuclear facilities to our Delmarva Peninsula led to lengthy, litigation-intensive delays and ran up further costs borne by Maryland ratepayers. In another case, disregarding impacts on Maryland's natural, environmental, and cultural resources, PJM's regional transmission process approved a new high voltage line requiring unnecessary greenfields construction. Only after protracted state review were the parties able to settle on an alternative that complied with the state's siting requirements. In each case, foreseeable local issues would have been avoided had there been early management with state authorities. Finally, it's imperative that future transmission planning be mindful of impacts on environmental justice. Much of the nation's energy infrastructure is sited in low-income and majority-minority communities. This leads to negative health consequences. And a great example is a massive, aging waste-to-energy incineration facility in South Baltimore. That has exacerbated the incidence of asthma in the city, which is far above the national average. Another example is in Prince George's County, Maryland, where a cluster of 4 fossil fuel power plants sit within a 13-mile radius of a 67% African American community. FERC's new focus on transmission reform presents an opportunity for finding creative ways to ameliorate the impacts of our reliance on fossil fuel plants in precisely those communities, and for promoting clean energy generally to lessen the health effects of fossil fuel-based energy sources. In this regard, I encourage FERC to fully empower its new Office of Public Participation. Doing so will facilitate the engagement of representatives from disadvantaged communities on FERC policy development. As transmission reform proceeds, FERC must hear the voices of those whose day-to-day lives are burdened by the injustices resulting from our current energy policies. Our state's already moving ahead with the transition to a clean energy future. My hope is that FERC will craft a transmission planning and interconnection process that supports those efforts. Thank you.